Hello everyone, and welcome to the Andrew Bartzis and Two Feathers Medicine Scotland show. So Andrew will be joining us in 30 minutes, so I'd like to welcome the host this evening. We welcome the great Laura Massey. Hello Laura.
Hi Dale, hi Maty, and hi everyone here. It's really good to be here and I'm loving this subject tonight.
And great to have you on, sister. And we welcome the incredible alchemist. We have the Maty Waller. Hello, Maty.
Hey Dale, hey Laura. Really happy to be here today, and I'm really looking forward to see Andrew getting into some of his galactic history frequency. It's been a while since I've heard him do that live, and it was always my favourite.
And incredible, man. And if you're here as well, if you want to say hello in the chat, we now have a system where we can see what you're saying in YouTube and Facebook as well. So it gives us more of a connection through the show as well. So let's begin. Laura, where should we start?
Oh, shall we talk? Because we can't do the Akashic like Andrew can. So let's save the questions, like Maty said, for when Andrew comes on. And maybe we can talk a little bit about our experiences in Scotland, because you've been down and Maty would like to hear. So do you want to kick off with why is Scotland so special? Why is it so close to your heart like it is to mine?
So for me, Scotland is something I've always... There was an advert, when I was younger, Visit Scotland advert, and I saw the Highlands, and there was something about them what activated me. And I ended up having a summer solstice pilgrimage there a few years ago. And for me, it was life-changing. I was going through a lot of stuff, a lot of release, a rites of passage in my own life. And to be able to see those highlands and the different areas, the stone circles, the loch, there's just something about it what really suits with me. And I had a reading with Andrew on, I called him one of the Adventures into Reality shows a few years ago, and he recommended I went to Scotland because I've got a lot of past life memory in there, and there's good karma there. there's not negative shit over there for me. So when I innately knew that and went and started giving offerings, visiting different areas and just really feeling the land, I didn't go there with the intention on changing it, but just experiencing for what it was, and it was fucking incredible. For me, it's one of my favourite places. So I live in north of England, a place called York, and me and Gabrielle, my wife, has said we're going to move there in about 8 years. There is a plan to move to Scotland at some point because it changed me that much. So my own personal experience of it, to be able to go out there, it's like no one's around. So you're going into the middle of the Highlands, then all of a sudden you look around, you're like, where the fuck is everyone? It's so good. So there's some cities, obviously we have Glasgow, we have Edinburgh, which are very busy cities. But as you go up to the Inverness period, as you go through to or Loch Lomond and so on, it's just there's no one around. There is obviously people, but you can be by yourself, which is I like. I feel a nice, incredible experience to do that. So that's probably the best thing about it for me, Laura, was just the land, the feel of the land, the place, the culture. I love having those sausages, those flat sausages for breakfast. I loved eating haggis for lunch, for tea. I ordered haggis with everything I ordered. And to be welcomed as well into that Scottish culture. So I was in Loch Lomond and I climbed Ben Lomond. This is after I did like a 3-peak challenge in memory of my father when he passed away. And I'd climbed Ben Lomond, and the view of the Loch Lomond was incredible. And I went to this place called the Slangy, and it was a real Scottish old like church converted into, and it had all the culture and history of Scotland on all the walls, had the pipes playing, the whiskey and everything like that. And I just love the tradition and I love the feel of it when I go there. So yeah.
I think you like it, Dale.
Yes, I do.
Very passionate.
and when so I saw a picture of me. I talked about Laura and Maty before the show. I saw a photo of me on the pilgrimage a few years ago, and for me to know what was happening now, where we're able to go to Scotland and have Andrew, we're going to be able to go on a pilgrimage with Andrew and be able to hear what the lands have to say, the ancestors. So this is a very unique experience coming forward into this bus tour as well.
Yeah, very much so. And I don't think you and I gave Andrew much choice when he said about doing a UK event. When we were looking at places, it's like, oh, yes, it's got to be Scotland. So just
Well, I think he did. He say, "What is with you two in Scotland?" Magically, there's London, there's everywhere.
He sent both of us there because in one of my readings, I think as far back as 2016, he said you've got to go to Loch Ness, and you've got lots of ancestors there, which will give you another sort of raise in consciousness when you go. So just a quick hi to some guys who've come back into the chat again. Raphael, good to see you there, bro. And Bethany Campbell clan, were you? Okay, so I've got a question for Andrew about the clans. And Tina and Laura, lovely to see you all. And Patty, wonderful. Great to have you all on board, guys. And yeah, don't forget to write in your questions, because between us we will try and cover them for Andrew when he's in, and he picks them out too. All of us will. So great to have you, and thank you for coming on. So yes, so what prompted this as well was last August. I did what Andrew said, only 5 years later, but I got to it, and I took my camper van up to all the way to Loch Ness, and my goodness, what an experience that was. And around Scotland, around the Highlands, around Glencoe, and then after 3 weeks on my own, I met a friend and did a coach tour of the Isle of Skye, Outer Hebrides. So I was blown away, and I loved it. The word magical can be overused, but I'm sorry, Scotland is magical for me. As soon as I got there, it was like a whole shift in energy, and the people I met were absolutely fantastic. And I had 2 visits to hospital there, which we sort of laugh about with Andrew. It's like Scotland didn't want to let me go, and I had so many incidences and things happen where right down to the taxi drive to the airport, the taxi guy gave me his number and said, "Do you have to leave?" So things like that did make me laugh. And I also had some wonderful dreams when I was there, especially the day I came out of Stornoway Hospital, where what lovely staff. They want to give you a cup of tea and make you better. That's just wonderful. They're brilliant people. I came out of hospital.
Did you meet any fishermen, Laura?
Any? Sorry?
Fishermen at all? Did you meet any fishermen there?
Fishermen?
Or fisher lady, was it? The story, I remember you told me the story of the lady who helped you with the broken fishing rod, and she was the karmic.
Oh, I've forgotten all about that.
You forgot about that. I remember that clearly, and you spoke to Andrew about it, and he...
Yes, the synchronicities that happen, that's right. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, when I came out of hospital, got to the hotel that night, I had a dream, and I went to meet some beautiful people, and they said, "Welcome home. Here she is, welcome home," which was beautiful. And that's where I felt I was part of me was definitely meant to be there. And yes, Andrew had said to me, because I spoke to him while I was there in Scotland, and he said, "Well, can you swim in Loch Ness?" And I thought, I don't really want to swim in Loch Ness, but I did, and it wasn't as cold as you think, and it was really good fun. And then he said, "Now you've got to fish." And I thought, oh, Andrew's always giving me these challenges. I've never fished in my life or had any inclination to. So up at the village stores, which sell everything, I thought they won't sell fishing rods. And I'm on this campsite, and I can't really go I don't want to go very far because I'm enjoying it there. Yes, the last fishing rod in the shop, a telescopic fishing rod I got. Oh my goodness, I couldn't work out one end from the other. I couldn't put the hooks on. I eventually did get it into the lock and sat there for a few minutes, and then I lost the what's the hook thing? The hook? Anyway, whatever it was, it got jammed between some stones, and I thought, sod it, I need to meet a fisherman. So I walked along. There's all the fishing boats out. No fishermen to be seen. I'd seen them every day, but they weren't there today. And then a lovely lady sat on the end of the pontoon, spied my fishing rod that I was hiding under my cloak because I didn't want to be obvious that I was fishing. And she said, "Have you used that?" And I said, "No, I don't know how." She said, "Oh, come here, I'll show you." And she spent about an hour with me showing how to do everything. She gave me some decent spinners, are they called? They go on the end, yeah. And she gave me an hour's tutorial for fishing. So I sat on the end of the pontoon and did what I was supposed to do, because apparently I must have done it many lifetimes before. So that was a fun journey. Yeah.
But you needed a teacher to show you how to fish.
I did, and there she was, and it was a woman, and of course I was looking for a man. Hello there, Andrew. How are you?
Yes, how you doing, guys? Sorry about being late.
Welcome, Andrew. Hey, brother.
Just telling fishing stories. Wonderful.
Yeah, we're sat around the fire now. Dale and I just thought, Maty asked if we could just recount some of why Scotland was special to us. And just before you came on, I was also recounting how Scotland didn't seem to want me to leave.
No. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're on Rumble.
Yeah.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Rumble on
And
Rumble.
we're on Rumble.
All right, great. My video's working now.
There he is.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
All right, so Laura has shared her fishing story. Dale, do you have a fishing story?
I don't. I think the nearest to a fishing story in Scotland was when I went to Loch Lomond. Every morning I swam in the loch. I got up at like 6 a.m. and went for a swim in the morning and the evening. And this
So
wasn't
you were a
summertime.
fish.
Yeah,
You were
so I
just a
was a
fish.
fish. Yeah. So there was, for me, so it was autumn time. It wasn't summer, so it was fucking cold. It was ridiculously cold. But it was incredible. That was when I went up Ben Lomond, which is a mountain just on the side of Loch Lomond. And yeah, it was a phenomenal trip.
Wonderful. Maty, you got any fishing stories?
Well, I haven't been to Scotland yet, but my dad was a fisherman and continues to fish to this day. So it was very much a part of my childhood. Although I didn't have the attention span to just sit there silently and look at the water. So I ended up quite a lot of the time just playing with the maggots. And I just sit there with the bowls of maggots and play with them and bring them out and put them back in. And yeah, so I didn't really get to much fishing.
Well, now that you're old age, you can end fish.
I'm gonna have to maybe some quiet time. I think my dad does it. My dad does it really just for the peace. I think.
The peace, the getting away. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We know Andrew's a fisherman.
Yeah, I love fishing. Sometimes I go out to fish with no hook on the line, just a weight in the water. Okay.
And you don't fish just in this world, do you, Andrew?
No,
I
he
fish in
fishes
all the
in
worlds.
dream world. We've caught him.
Yep. All right, so let's get into our Akashic Record reading. Akashic Record reading of Scotland.
Yes, let's.
Where does thy want to start? Let me see
Well-
that. I don't see the chat room. Nope, that's the
You
private
can see
chat.
the
Hold
chat?
on.
Yeah, there's a few.
I can see it. I can see it now. I got it now. Yep.
You got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've touched on Culloden a couple of times. I didn't want to do too much of where we're going on the tour. I don't think. Are we stopping at Culloden on the tour?
Yes, we are. So after
we
we
are.
go to Inverness, we'll be going to Culloden, yeah.
Okay. So maybe we don't want to talk about that one now, or maybe there's so much there that we can just touch on it, because we have mentioned before that there's a womb chakra over Loch Ness area, and Culloden is north.
Well,
east of
it moves. It moves. It first thing first. Room chakras are not fixated to one place. They can move hundreds of miles north, south, east, and west.
Okay.
Based off of the passing of the season, the movement of the stars, the amount of energy that's charged in the environment through solar flares versus the geomagnetic actions going on underground. And the energy of the people on the surface also absolutely influences the womb chakra itself.
Okay, so when Culloden was, would that have been partly to disrupt the energies of the womb chakra and to keep war on it? But then you could say that about any war, anywhere that there's a womb chakra.
No, womb chakras are generally on the equator, just above or below the equator.
Right.
They're not necessarily at the poles, the North and the South Pole either. They're there where life force amasses. So wherever salmon go and amass, bears, fish, cats, dog, all that stuff amass around them. Wherever there's mass birthing, there's generally a womb chakra there.
Okay.
And that's how you can understand, is it a mass birthing place?
Okay. And we
Not
also
just the fish, but all the other things that go with it cyclically.
Yes, because we talked about this on another show as well, that is partly to do with the frequency held in the water from the crystalline held in the granite on the land.
As well as the surface and subsurface beings who shamantically work with those energies.
I asked you this question in a private reading a few years ago, Andrew, about the womb chakra in Scotland, and I remember you saying that you follow the Inverness line down to Ireland, and it's either side, it moves 100 miles either side of that line.
Yep. And it can go east and west, north and south, depending on the pole of consciousness.
Okay.
Now, when the water levels were much lower, those parts of Britain and Scotland were considered the highlands. They were tops of mountains. Like if you were to go to Machu Picchu, and the lake there, it would be like that, except the lower ends where, let's say, Dodgerville, which where when the waters were 300 feet lower, you had a tremendous amount of life force who would pilgrimage to the high areas. Okay? And then when the varieties of disasters and floods came, people retracted to those high areas. That's also why so many ancient sites are in those high areas, because that's where the religious of those eras of history would pilgrimage to connect to the stars.
And I think there's a famous pilgrimage route, Andrew, on the top of Ireland going going towards Scotland. There's a famous pilgrimage route which was a Catholic. I can't remember the name of the guy, but I watched it on BBC the other week. About a few months ago. There was a famous pilgrimage line that used to go from bottom of Ireland all the way through up to the Highlands that way. Really cool.
Yeah.
So there's two fault lines either side of Loch Ness. There is a graphic I put on, Joel. I don't know whether you want to load it, but these two fault lines, are they anything to do with the womb chakra? Are
Absolutely.
they related? Okay.
So those fault lines represent plate interactions, which creates high amounts of electromagnetic energy at the fault line, underneath the fault line, and above the fault line. And that fault line will determine how much flow of energy is going to come through during the next mass birthing cycle. It's actually, you could actually say that area was been engineered for that purpose.
Engineered by the dragons?
No, by the Atlanteans, who understood how the surface of the world works, and they were split in two forms: high science and natural living. And high science and natural living came together to form the continents and the technology that was underneath it, so you could have these mass birthing places, encourage the womb chakras to stay active for extended periods of time.
And which is why it is talked about that Atlantis did cover a lot of the area of Scotland, the UK, northern France, and so on.
Well, Atlantis was an empire. It wasn't one city. It was a worldwide empire.
But there was a mass, was there not, over that area?
Yes, but those were the religious natives versus high science people there.
Okay.
Remember, Atlantis was again split into two ideological camps: high science and the faith to high science, and the extreme natural living, which understood there was a science in faith also, which allowed them to be master agrarians, masters in animal husbandry, as well as DNA manipulation through the natural journey. But the two would come together during whatever the planet was heavily attacked and had to go through a regeneration of its surface world, they would be able to work together, and they could regenerate destroyed continents in months, not decades.
Yeah, so Atlantis was more a culture.
Yes, a culture that wasn't limited to this planet. It was in fact on hundreds and hundreds of other planets.
Okay, and did the Druids pick up a lot of Atlantean culture in their methods? Because when you're talking about how they operated,
so the Druids would have been a long distance offshoot, just like the Egyptians were the holders of the culture when Atlantis fell. So yes, they would have picked up more of the natural living side and not the high science side.
So for Lemuria, because that was more of a well-balanced, I'd say, society, wasn't it? With the technology not kind of overlaying the actual spirituality.
Well, Lemuria was an intergalactic level culture that attracted thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of cultures to come and share their philosophy, wisdom, science, and technology here, which is a mass education place. And that's what made it a massive target by many of the other aggressive species who wanted that number one slot.
So did Scotland exist at that point?
Sorry, Maty.
That's okay.
Did Scotland exist at that point? Yes, but the ocean levels were much lower. So imagine, Britain and France all really one mass territory with rivers and massive rivers and lakes between them and not giant oceans. Mm.
Which is why I think we said before, Maty, on another show about there must be as much to be found under the ocean now as there is above.
As below, so yes, as below, so above, and as below, so below. You know what I'm talking about.
And it was at Orkney Island as well. That was actually the top of the mountain where that standing stone was, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, standing stones at the top of the mountain were something very specific. It was a leap-off point where those that would pilgrimage to that place would amplify their spirit to go to other realms, places, and spaces for long-distance journey and traveling. All right, sorry about that.
It's all right. And so for the up where the spine of Scotland is, Andrew, is there a sacral chakra there, or it was?
So let's replace the word. Let's replace the word sacral,
yeah.
And it's all the chakras in one.
Wow.
Where's that?
Remember, the planet doesn't need one set of chakras. It has hundreds of sets of chakras designed for each individual culture. And we must remember, this world is set up to have 8,400 individual unique frequencies of surface time. And each one of those can have its own set of multiple chakra systems for those that are living in that unique frequency of time.
So that would be a very special site back in the day, a long time ago, for people to pilgrimage to that point. And sure. I think you mentioned the Picts did that a lot.
It would be also a place of high technology and high spirit technology too.
And has that to do with the crystalline content of the granite?
It's not about the crystalline content of the granite. It's the tunnels that would be underneath it that would be allowing multidimensional travel to any place on the surface and subsurface of the planet and extraplanetary locations.
And would that be what places like Fingal's Cave would be for?
No, Fingal's Cave is a very different, unique purpose. It's where the subterranean world allows oracles to exist, so the surface and the subsurface people can learn how to get along with each other, how to grow with each other, how to share individual conscious concepts such as spirit versus technology. It was a medium place in which surface beings could raise their frequency and enter the subsurface world for a shortened period of time so they could experience a higher density world in the subsurface versus the surface, which is a unique 3D world, even though it could have all the other worlds layered onto it at once. And it's a matter of perception and our ability to be multidimensional perceptive that allows us to surface travel many places simultaneously.
So that wouldn't just apply to Fingal's cave then? It could apply to any
Correct.
cave?
No, not just any old cave. No, not any cave.
Okay.
Fingal's cave is a specific place, like Delphi was the place of oracles.
Oh, okay. All right. And are there other caves in Scotland that have the same technology?
Yes.
And operate for the same purpose? And are they just particular to Scotland as well?
No. So oracle caves exist all over the world. Oracle style caves existed all over the world. They're not common. They're definitely rare places because it's the makeup of the place that will determine what its bigger use is.
So all of these caves, would they be kind of linked to areas? Say you could go from Scotland to another country, like there are lots of those caves around. I'd say, sorry, cave's the wrong word, tunnel. Is there lots of tunnels under Scotland which can get you to a different area pretty quick?
Yes. There are tunnels in Scotland, Ireland, and Lower England that directly connect you to the entire Egyptian Mesopotamia area, as well as parts of USSR, which is far Russia next to Japan, Siam, which is lower Thailand, southern China, and tunnels that will directly take you to New Zealand and the Melbourne area, and South Africa. Actually, it's technically tunnels that could take you everywhere if you look at the Hill of Tara, which has tunnels that go literally to all the major all cardinal points on the planet, surface and subsurface.
So, a question about these tunnels then? So, were these tunnels dug intentionally, or were they from the Earth's creation?
Yes, they were built. They were built absolutely intentionally, because remember, this is the most fortified planet in several dozen galaxies. And in fact, at one point, it was the most fortified planet in existence. Wow. And why was it fortified? Because it was under attack all the time. But that was the Lemurians that created, and it was the Atlanteans that took it to extreme levels of fortification, physical, non-physical, seen, unseen, etheric, everything. And they needed these tunnels because of the mass levels of fortification, which allowed them to travel as a hub of connectivity internally. And that's why even these tunnel systems are so heavily protected, because if you do get access to them, you get access to the whole world, inner and outer.
So what's it like now for this coming in and out? Is it because I remember you said there was like a stop point where they weren't letting anyone in and out at one point, and that got removed. What's it like for beings coming in and out?
There's only a limited amount of tunnels that have been opened back up. We'll say maybe 10% of the tunnels are in use now. The rest are unable to be used because they don't have access to the actual control room that controls that opens and closes those tunnels. It goes back to the Galactic History series that talks about control rooms. Those control rooms are like an airport's station that tells them airplanes where to go and what to do and where to go and all that stuff. And you need those control rooms to make sure that can actually happen. Sorry about the moving around. I needed to go outside and I need to plug my phone in while I'm doing this. All right.
So, question from.
All right, here. Sure.
Okay, yeah, so thanks, Lana. How old are the tunnels? We probably covered that. Or when were they built or created?
From the majority of them were created by the Lemurians at about 41 million years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll just say around 41 million years ago. And then the Atlanteans did their final mass tunnel creation around 22 million years ago.
Pretty old then.
Yes.
Yes.
Ancient. Okay.
So, yeah, so from your perspective now of looking at Scotland, Andrew, what do you see from, as the Galactic Historian, from your neutral perspective, what do you see now? Obviously, we have the imprint of the cities and the sacred geometry, but is there anything particularly you can talk about what you see at this present moment with Scotland or what's going on there? Especially as we go into, obviously, the time where we're going into the 2035 period. Is there anything you can kind of connect that to a little?
So we have to understand Britain as an empire. Is Britain all Britons anymore? No. It's a melting pot of everything. But that's a good thing. Having the melting pot there means there's the highest level of potentiality of that land resolving massive amounts of karma. And it's fair to say that the system of domination and control was unaware that that was a honeypot. They only wanted Britain to become a mass empire like that would allow the land to do what it was going to do in its own secret format.
Because it is like, obviously there's the cities in Scotland, but Scotland seems to have a lot more where you go and you're like, where the fuck is everyone? so
Right.
much space, and yeah.
Right. So somebody was asking, don't the earthquakes don't affect these tunnels? They're immune to earthquakes. They're a hyperdimensional construction.
I think there's only 5 million in Scotland, isn't there? And only 5 million in Wales. Yeah.
And in
I think
England,
there's
it just
more,
seems
but
that whenever you walk,
I
in
think
any
there's
direction-
more all over
That's
the
a wiki.
Yeah. Yeah, they say there's 7 billion. They say there's 7,500,000,000. I think it's closer to 15 billion people actually living on our world. They don't want you to know the truth. How many living beings are here?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, guys. Did one of you ask something then?
Nope.
No, it was me. It's okay. It's okay. I was just making a comment.
Food is much better there now in Scotland.
And I think the Prime Minister of Scotland stepped down. Is that right? I think that was only like last week. The female Prime Minister stepped down as well. So there's.
I don't know. I'm not paying attention to Scotland's
I
political.
know. I saw it though. I was like, I just saw it like passing. I was like, oh, cool, wow, that's what's going on, is it? and
There's
I
always
do
a push
believe
for
it.
it to separate from the UK as a whole. It seems to be a big part of the narrative there that they want freedom from the UK. It seems to be a constant subject.
Which is
Yeah, that's been
understandable.
going on for 300 years, though.
Yeah. Yes. And they've been
Yeah,
battling
non-stop.
about it
Okay.
and spilling blood on
Yeah.
the land. Right back to what Edward the First
Right.
and before that. Yeah.
There's a lot of things trying to get people to move to Scotland from England as well. They actually have, you don't have to pay for university out there. When you become a citizen in Scotland for 2 years, you don't have to pay university fees or anything.
That's because their
Education's free.
population is aging so fast.
Yeah.
And they don't have enough young adults to take over the industry or the local service jobs.
Well,
Would
I
you
never
know-
thought of it like that.
If Wiki's right, then one of Scotland's greatest exports are female nurses and male teachers,
Yes,
which is interesting. Because
which tells you something about the land, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, because it tells you that the caring that the people have, because they've not lost some. I've noticed when I was there, they've not lost the handing down of the stories, the teachings in the songs, the traditions, and the level of care in the hospitals. I'm not, the NHS has been great to me wherever I am. But there, the ladies, there's an extra something in the way they care for you. Like I was saying before you came on, Andrew, that everything is answered with, "Would you like a cup of sweet tea, hen?" And they call you hen. I can't do the Scottish accent. I won't try.
Go on, give it a go, please. Go on.
No, I know both you can do it. I know you can do it, so you can do it. But yes, and the teaching will be is that they still retain that energy within themselves. The working closer to the land, and
Well,
you
I
can
think
feel
as
it there.
well.
It's not been knocked out of them quite so much.
because there's that essence of clanland, isn't there? You go there and you're still connected to the people of the Highland Hills, the traditions and the cultures and the people who lived in clans, and it was all about family. But when you come to England, you don't really see any of that around. It's all organisations and everything. So it's beautiful when you go there. You got that, you're right, Laura. There's that lovely feeling, isn't there, of that family and your history. It's great.
And people still have the clan names as well, don't they? Lots of people still have those.
Yes. Interesting about the clans, Andrew. So they would be a modern take on the older clans, the ancient tribes.
So let's take the word tribe out of it and go and call them inheritors of the Atlantean wisdom, who were the super spirit was their technology, versus high science. Spirit was their technology. Agrarian worlds, animal husbandry, growing trees, forests, because the bigger concept was you could grow a forest and then you could teleport that forest off-world to a blank Akashic Record world, and you needed extreme specialists who could grow entire ecologies and then transport them physically and etherically and graft them onto a new world and then replace what they were moving away with fresh seedlings.
So are they taking anything off-world from Scotland particularly?
Oh, they've done it for centuries, for very extended periods of time. But that is the culture. The culture inherited that wisdom. And the clans break down, this clan did fish, this clan did trees, this clan did nuts and berries, this clan did cows and horses, so on and so forth, until they all kind of melted into natural living. And it's not about the individual growth of forests or the individual greater ecologies. It was maintaining the ecology without destroying it. Because when they would graft stuff onto new worlds, they would bring spirits with them who volunteered to go to this new place.
So the clans would be on other worlds too?
Yes, and there are many existed, like when we get to have our multidimensional awareness and there are tens of thousands of clans who exist on other worlds who have taken the inheritance of this wisdom and advanced it in their own ways. Yes.
Wow.
So Bethany would like to know, what did the Campbell clan do, other than what Wikipedia said, I think, Bethany.
So their big thing was animal husbandry. Getting the right frequency of male and female animal to not just create offspring, but that would be used for food sources, but that would be the best benefit for the land. Example, cows are a very powerful multidimensional balancing being for land if you're not slaughtering them, okay? They're extremely powerful tools, but when you're slaughtering them, there's a whole different energy that they can create if it's done correctly. But animal husbandry is about getting the right group of souls 7 generations into the future to be aligned each birthing process, so that there was an ancestral balance, because cows are a powerful ancestral balancer, as well as other four-legged animals, including sheep and et cetera, et cetera.
Wow. So they want to give us, so the history, what we see now, they want to give us the impression that the clans were all about battle and war, and that's kind of imprinted onto us. But what you're saying is the true essence of the clans is much different.
It's natural living. You take the battle and the war away, they were all about natural living, yes.
And
the great journey through
hairy
it.
balls.
Yeah.
Cold balls, sorry. Wrong words.
So there's to flip the frequency on that, there is a stereotype within England where a lot of Scottish become alcoholics on the streets, and it is actually something that you do see quite a lot. Is there some sort of energy there, because they're quite renowned for it?
Sure. Same thing in Native American cultures here.
Right.
They called it firewater. Native Americans called it exactly. Why? Because it's spirits that they are highly attuned to that make them go multidimensionally crazy at times. Okay? They used to drink frequently, but 1.1% alcohol by volume. You could have 20, 30 of those in a day, and it was great energy booster. It's like having a cup of coffee with sugar in it, but it was positive sugar for you to process. Many indigenous cultures fell victims to alcohol because that alcohol was actually haunted. It was created in such a way that it was toxic spiritually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so for the society like the Picts, when you're saying that the other beings came here, did they physically coming to the 7th density planet or 5th density, whatever it was, or was it they here as energy beings coming into the astral world and going through that kind of process?
The Picts were actually a subsurface group that was cultivated over thousands of years to grow in a subsurface environment with the intention they would bring them to the surface environment. Think of it like as an antibody, like humans have antibodies to stop certain types of thoughts, concepts, emotions. The Picts were an antibody to some negative stuff on the surface world.
Wow.
Is that Old Manor's store that
It's
Joel's
so
just
beautiful.
put up for us? Yeah. One of the places we're visiting in Glencoe.
Another place of pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So is there any pyramids amongst any of these, Andrew?
Are all over. Pyramids all over the world.
Yeah.
Quite literally, all over the world. In fact, what was it? The last estimate just by the archaeologists alone, there were 4,000 pyramids on the world. I would say there's closer to 250,000 on the world.
Wow.
So you'll be able to spot a few in Scotland then, Andrew?
Yeah.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Just like the Bosnian people realized the mountains in Bosnia were actually giant pyramids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the castles, because I think there might have one time been about 3,000 castles in Scotland. So other than the obvious fortification, is there any, what would the unseen side be to castles?
So let's go to, let's say, 280, 270,000 years ago. Fortifications were created because they would assemble a consciousness, strength, and faith that could be turned into a weapon. And many modern fortifications that were grown in the Middle Ages or Dark Ages were just built on old fortifications because it was a place where consciousness could be focused into the defense or offense of the land. And many of those places, original fortifications that were like 280,000 years ago, there was a actual weapon system in the underground that could fire at above ground and orbital based ships in and out of different vibrations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow moment.
I was
Silent moment.
silently
Wow.
wowing there.
It was with the clown thing as well. Just like I was smiling like wow.
Yeah, I know. It's like I've got to go back and listen to all of this.
And yes, that's why the clans were manipulated into becoming warlike, because there was a weapon system that would defend their creations.
Wow.
Okay,
So-
they weren't dumb. They knew if they were creating 7,000 miles of forest that was going to go to a blank Akashic Record world, that was highly valued by tens of thousands of other advanced species. I can't even begin to describe the value of a jungle, of a 200 square mile jungle.
And people would want to steal it.
Absolutely want to steal it because it came with all the unseen ecology as a part of it.
Well, you used to have all the wolves and all different types of animals, didn't you, in Scotland, walking around at some point?
Even down to the
everything.
microorganisms in the dirt too. The complete food chain.
Wow.
So some of the castles like Stirling and Edinburgh are built on massive granite outcrops.
Yes, that have deep underwater action in them, which can create a highly charged piezoelectric environment that can change the consciousness on the surface.
Would that apply to Balmoral? Because she told me to go away and find out for myself. So what I did is went and got a map of the land mass around Balmoral, and over that side in Aberdeenshire, there's the islands. Yes, like out Hebrides and all that are the granite, basically, the Lewis and granite. but there's only some outcrops in Aberdeenshire where Balmoral is, and Balmoral seems to be on one of those granite outcrops. So that would be for the same reason as the castles, right?
Exactly.
So I've been following a group on Facebook called the Pick Society, where they do like webinars and stuff about the picks and what they find in the Highlands and stuff. And what they found last year was a Roman belt in one of the famous pick sites. So a question for you, Andrew: when the Roman Empire came into Scotland, was one of their reasons for coming in obviously to expand the domination, but to take out the Picts, was that one of their kind of missions in a way? Or was it another society which took out the Picts?
A whole nother society that took them out.
Okay, yeah. So...
Picky Picts. The Picts were an antibody, meaning the baby raping lizard wizards did not want that antibody. The Romans didn't want it. None of the aggressive territorial command groups wanted them, because they shared something that was so powerful and unique that made them high faith warriors, and high faith warriors are the most destructive thing to have versus empires that have no faith.
So I'm going to ask a question on behalf of Dale now, because Dale loves the Picts. Was Dale a Pick? Is Dale a Pick?
No, I'm not.
He was picked. He was picked to be a pick. He was picked.
He must be.
There's something about
he's definitely got some picky energy in him.
He definitely has. I know he waited a while to ask the pick question, and then there they are.
So I'm going to tell you the story of what. So when I first heard about the Picts, I've heard about them in other things, but I watched. If you go on to Andrew's page on the YouTube page and you look back at the Picts, and he talks about how they were taken off this world and so on. And for some reason, it really connected to me. I don't know whether it was the Picts or it was just Scotland itself, but I watched that quite a few times, and yeah, I love the Pict questions.
You have to understand why the Picts were taken off. They became such a powerful antibody that the system realized, I can commoditize them, and they did. Okay? So there are plenty of other worlds that needed this energy too. Okay? And guess what? The good still won out by having the Picts spread to the stars and beyond. They started here and made a huge impact here, and they still have lots of DNA all over the world here. They absolutely made an influence here. So much that the system realized we can't allow that to happen again. Therefore, there are things that we must settle in our journey, or the Earth will create these antibody systems again.
So they were naturally spawned from the Earth itself.
Well, they were, again, created in an internal subterranean world and uniquely trained as souls and spirits to be able to handle what was coming.
Wow. And a lot of them still above the Highlands in ships, I'd say, waiting for our graduation to come.
Not really, not like that. I mean, they're out there. They're out there. Just like there's Native Americans and South Americans and dreamwalkers from the different many indigenous realms who are waiting for us to come into our power. They're out there, but they're not in ships floating above the space. No, they're in the outer realms.
Wait, and just ready to jump down. Hi, guys. 2035, start the first day. Hi, motherfuckers.
Exactly.
So somebody in the chat asked about the rings of Brogar, but I don't know whether you want to save that, because that's another one. That's somewhere we're going on the tour.
Rings of Brogar. Let's just simply say that's a fascinating story where high science had to come in and help the Earth, the lower science spirit people, because of a sickness, a psychic sickness that was spreading amongst people, kind of like a blight that would affect trees, but it was affecting the living of the beings of this world. And it was something that was a weaponized energy from another world that was brought here that was killing the connection to land, and high science had to solve it. And the rings were a way to spread that energy mass amongst the world.
Wow. This is stuff, guys, that, as you know, you never read or hear anywhere else but from Andrew. Oh.
That's what I do.
Yep.
You ain't gonna hear it. You're gonna hear it on on you know what I mean.
CNN.
Yeah, you're not gonna hear it on CNN.
So we lied, guys. This is the full coverage of what really happened. We have Andrew on the show. Hello, Andrew.
Well, Don Lemon, you're an asshole. That's the first thing I say. You are fake news. Goodbye. I plugged my website before I go.
What about Ben Nevis then? Is there any particular technology in and around Ben Nevis? Because that's the largest mountain in the UK. I know that doesn't really matter, but the Ben Nevis itself.
No, nothing whatsoever. It's completely normal.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
He's winding you up.
I was just yeah.
When have you ever
It's a
heard
mountain.
Andrew
That's all you
say
need
that?
to know. Cheers.
And
Cheers.
he's completely normal.
So Andrew, when I was looking on Wikipedia, there was a section about certain things that had been found that could not be dated. So can I read a couple of those to you?
Sure.
And you can tell me what's going on. So we do have a map of this somewhere, Joel. So this one is an island called Hirta, Hirta, in the St Kilda area of Scotland. And it said that horned structures were found in the Glen Moor, including the Amazon House. Nothing like them exists anywhere else in Britain or Europe, and their original use is unknown. It's possible they could be Pictish, although they could be much older. So a horned structure.
So, are you familiar with Göbekli Tepe in Turkey?
Yes.
So, it's a species that existed there who are off-world that came here and essentially become native earthers. But they ended up not really becoming native earthers, more like the cultures everywhere incorporated their DNA and they lost their natural from where they originally were. They came here to become earthers, and Earth absolutely incorporated them, but they brought their culture from another place. Listen, there are humans that exist on tens of thousands of other worlds that have their own unique culture, and then they got brought here through tunnels, and they become earthers, except they leave behind things that are completely unique, separate of the rest of this world.
And this is like the refugee species you talk about.
Yes, it'll be exactly that, a refugee species.
Yeah.
They got
And
a
so
200. They got a 200 square mile area of the planet to start with. Here you go.
And so would that have been kind of, there may be some trouble in their own homeworlds, or something's risk, their culture is at risk, or?
Correct. Or their world was being destroyed, being invaded, etc., etc.
So it would have been a trauma to them to lose a substantial amount of their culture.
Correct. Big trauma. And all that's left in history is a Wikipedia description of them.
Yes, how sad.
Yeah. And
So
it'll
what
take
was the
the
horn structure itself?
communication center. Think of it like a ham radio operator, but in a multidimensional sense, that any other of the refugees who didn't get the location of where they were assembling at would be able to tune into that unique radio, for that unique frequency, and get a homing beacon to this place.
Ah. I'd like to see that.
It would also attract the ancestors who were stuck between worlds when the worlds were destroyed too. Because what allowed a refugee species to come is they brought their ancestors with them. And oftentimes they could only bring a handful of the ancestors because they had to leave so fast, and they couldn't bring all their high ceremonial objects with them that connected them to the old lands, or the old lands to where the way the spirit technology was built, the ancestors weren't mobile. You just couldn't pull them out of the rocks, and that you actually had to bring mountains with you for that to work. And that wasn't always feasible.
That's cool. Okay, so I have another one. This is an area within Aberdeenshire, and there have been found some petrospheres, like carved stone balls of an uncertain date. They're also found in Orkney, Skye, Iona and Lewis.
Yeah, and you find the same spheres all throughout South America too.
And what was their purpose?
First thing first is they changed the flow of energy on the land. And the shamans who were servicers of the energetic technology would use these spheres and move these spheres so that energy wouldn't become dense in one place, but a flow would exist between all of them. Oftentimes, these balls were between ceremonial and pilgrimage-based places or put on pilgrimage routes to make sure the energies of prayer constantly flowed.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Is there any technology that's totally unique to Scotland? Because most of the technologies we've talked about can be found all over the planet. Has Scotland got any unique technology?
It did, but it's already been spread to the rest of the world.
So it started
And that would
in
be
Scotland.
it would, again, not necessarily. Remember, Atlantis was a worldwide and multi-planetary society that extended to thousands and thousands of other worlds. So Scotland itself, like I said, it mastered. They were the spirit side of technology. It was split. The society was split into high science and high spirit, but science and spirit could regularly agree and work together. Okay, it was because you chose a way of living, and if you chose to live on the natural land, you still had moving water and stuff like that, and hot and cold running water, but you lived on your land versus living in a high-rise building that was designed to master energy the same way as if you were living on the land. It was a choice of lifestyle. And they were also the ones that would use their lifestyle force to create other life force that became a tradable commodity to millions of other worlds.
And this is something I think we forget when we talk about Atlantis and Lemuria, is that they were star-faring societies.
Yes,
they had
absolutely.
They had free roaming capabilities.
And militaristic capabilities too, highly military, because their commodities were regularly pirated, stolen, etc., which made them at times the aggressors to the rest of the world out there, because they had the highest amount of technology, and somebody always wanted to knock them off the king of the mountain. And there was many times they preemptively striked at societies who were about to strike at them. And what happens when something starts preemptive striking all the time? They become the negative empire.
Yeah.
But something like whiskey that is affected by where it's grown, like, you know, how it's smoked, how it's produced, and so on, is affected. So this is alcohol that's affected by the land, which would make it unique technology to that place, because that can't be repeated anywhere else, because somewhere else the land is different and the energies in the land are different, and the people that are making the product are different people with different energies. So something like a whiskey is unique. A particular whiskey is unique to a particular place, isn't it? Like in Scotland.
Yes, because of the water that's in it, the energy that comes from the different things that go to make the mash, the hops if it's beer, the corn if it's, you know, whatever it's going to be that's going to create the sugars that start the yeast to moving. How do they collect the yeast? In the ancient times, they put out, you know, fruits that they would allow to go through a maturation process, which would attract bees, and the bees are covered in yeast. And there would be just enough growth colonies on the surface of these fruits they'd lay out. I had a specific term for it. I forgot what it was called. Anyways, but that's how it naturally harvests yeast, and then they would have yeast in massive colonies that would stay alive for centuries at a time.
So a question from the chat, where is it there, from Tina. Are today's distilleries aware of their spirits?
No.
The spirits and the spirits.
There are some, but the vast majority of them aren't. But if you get down to the art of a brewer, most of them, they know it's alive, just like a plant or a dog or a cat. It's got a living frequency to it. They know that. But how are they going to tell the world of science and the world of authority that it's alive and they believe that? They're not going to say that. They're going to be ridiculed.
Yeah. I once bought a bottle of whiskey in a supermarket in the UK that was Scottish single malt, and it had lots of the wonderful imagery actually on the glass. Mm. And as you opened it up, it was orange, and it actually had a prayer to the ancestors behind on the box and the bottle. I thought it was beautiful.
That's natural order. Whiskey is a technology. It can be extremely medicinal and healing. It's not meant to be drunk at extremely high alcohol volumes. That's ultimately what made, they called it fire water. Imagine a whiskey that's brewed at like 18%, but still has all the flavor and taste of a higher alcohol by volume one.
So for drinking whiskey, Andrew, has it been around in traditions for a while? Because I know, like you said, in France, when they had the wine brewers and had all the cellars with all the wine for ancestral balancing, was it like that in Scotland more a while ago, where they had lots of whiskey just for that ancestral balancing and working with the land instead of people drinking it?
So whiskey is a more of a modern magic than it is an ancient magic. Even though they were able to brew hard alcohols back then, they didn't, because there wasn't a culture for it. Okay? And the majority of distilleries versus beer brewing, which is a completely different journey of making the alcohol, is radically different. And it was a way to, if you're doing high distillery, it was a way to store energy.
Okay.
So let's say you had a particularly powerful harvest and a lot of excess. They would then store it in a whiskey or a distillery type brew that they could draw that energy on during harsh times or needing it to make aggressive counteractions to an invasion. It was a way to store energy.
Okay.
And immediately access it, as well as balance the ancestral energies too.
Okay, a totally different question for you here now. So why have the global narrative pushed William Wallace forward when there were many others? But why William Wallace particularly? Who is he in the unseen, or who is he a mix of?
It's a bigger question. Or... Why was an Australian guy playing William Wallace?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, is that
Okay. And why were the vast majority of people that were actors not Scottish at all in that movie? Okay. Okay. That's the bigger question to ask. And the answers that you get is they wanted to homogenize everyone to think that the Scots were this frequency, and in fact, there's something completely different.
So it was complete distraction.
No, it's a
bending of the truth.
A bending of truth in such a way that the visual productions of the movie took away from the truth so much, because the visual acuity of the movie was so unique, the violence that was in it. And truly, that movie was an extremely violent movie. And there's the bigger thing about that. The Scots, they were not violent like that. They became that violence in response to what was being done to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, because there's also legend that William Wallace himself was actually a negative person as well, and a rapist and things like this.
Was.
This is something else.
He was. He absolutely. You got to realize, when they began their journey, they were roving bands of thugs and thieves who were taking opportunities to attack British patrols who had become so arrogant they would they would be escorting their money to pay the troops with 15 guys protecting it, and they were no experience behind them. Their level of arrogance made it very easy for a group of semi-trained thugs to be able to overpower those people.
Yeah.
So what about the Jacobites?
People are
then?
asking, can we still use whiskey ceremony? Absolutely. Create your own. Or find stuff that's created in a unique positive frequency, and any bottle of alcohol could be you could add energy to it. That's what its purpose is. So what about the Jacobites?
Just a bit of general about why they were formed, and what history says to really what the Akashic Record says about them.
All right, so the Jacobites through history were formed when the lords and ladies of a land who had historical title to it, Britain is the king and queen, stopped recognizing their title. And if you went back into the ancient days, title was always recognized all throughout, even into France, into Germany, title was always recognized. They stopped recognizing title. And the Jacobites became an organization of people whose title was no longer recognized, and they wanted to force recognition of their title back.
Wow.
Title meant you were connected to the ancestors, and if they took your title away, that was magic, dark magic being done.
Which is kind of the position that we're in mainland England itself, because it seems like the other cultures around us, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, still seem to retain some of their ancientness, some of their tradition, whereas in England it doesn't really seem to be the case.
And the answer is there were so many places that the British, no matter how much they wanted to purge the indigenous cultures, they were just too afraid to go. Okay? Because going up a mountain trail with not enough troops, you could easily be picked off. So they just said, I'm not going up that trail. Oh, I don't care if there's 10,000 of them up there. I'll just send a letter that says that I went there and there was nothing there. It's very scared British troops.
Yeah.
That's ultimately how many that exactly. That's how so many of these little pockets survived.
Which would be a bit similar to Wales, I guess.
Yes.
Well,
Similar
all
sort
over.
of terrain.
All over.
Yeah. So what are the energies behind independence in Scotland from England?
Well, that's natural. I mean, they were embracing dark magic and evil of the Catholic Church, and they wanted to live a non-Catholic Church life. Okay? That's why. They didn't want to take the forced religion.
But that still, I was going to say, prevails to today. How long ago did we have the vote for independence, guys? Is it a couple of years?
Long time ago. But are Scottish people allowed to practice their religion openly? No, they're not. They are not.
We've got a lady.
Ask anybody in Scotland. Can they practice non-Christian religions openly? No.
But, yeah.
Okay, there are laws dating back hundreds of years that stop it. The same thing was done to the Native Americans here in America. Yeah. They weren't allowed to do their religious ceremonies.
Yeah.
They were outlawed in law.
Which probably goes back to Henry VIII, if not before, doesn't it?
Yes.
Which is, I remember you saying something, Andrew, about that. This is why there's a ceremonial expression where people kind of sit or don't move too much, because it would have been all dance and movement, but that was obviously outlawed. So it would have been the nature of ceremony had to change.
Had to change, yes.
The energies of the bagpipes. What do they sound like in the unseen?
Like bagpipes.
Okay.
What do bagpipes sound like? They sound like bagpipes.
They are not.
What a better concept
from Scotland.
is. No. What a better concept is. Who thought a bag of air with some sticks sticking out of it would become a unique musical instrument? That is technology. Bagpipes are unique technology.
Yeah, but they are
Sound
from
any
the
other
creating
Middle
worlds,
East.
or-
technology.
I was going to say
from
they
other worlds?
came from the Middle
Bagpipes
East,
from
didn't
the
they?
stars.
Or are you saying so they came from the Middle East to Scotland, but before then, did you say they're Atlantean technology? Okay.
It's techno. Like whoever could figure out that a bag of air with some sticks coming out of it could make these unique frequencies. Okay, that's technology. That's someone who understands the nature of sound-based frequency technology and came up with the most primitive way of recreating high technology out of a bag with air in it, or a stomach bladder, or whatever it was, with the stick sticking out of it and a couple finger markers on it to change frequency and vibration.
Yeah.
Again, that's extremely high technology recreated in the most basic of technology.
And
Wood
within
and
the UK,
wood and flesh. Yeah.
within the UK here, it's expressed at the moment through patriotism, obviously from Scottish people, so they're very patriotic, but also through war. So you'll find that the British Army will often play bagpipes as a kind of way to, get the troops ready and going, and have that sense of patriotism and aggressiveness. So that's using the technology in a negative manner.
Sure. But the bagpipes themselves can motivate people into high frequency without the patriotism. The patriotism just puts it on steroids.
Yeah. Okay.
Atlantean technology, that's so cool. The pipes, I'll never look at them the same again.
So,
You're just bag of air, you. Bag of air.
But ultimately, it's to raise consciousness, yeah? Or for healing?
And to alter, as well as to alter the land. So bagpipes, if you were to look at them as a non-military based technology, there are a land improvement technology. So sound can improve the fertility of the land, allow the animals to have high fertility, to have extremely potent growing seasons, to control the weather too.
So
And it wasn't just one lone bagpiper; it would be 4,000 or 5,000 bagpipers marching or pilgrimaging from one side of the planet to the other, or one part of the pilgrimage route to another, so that those energies of the land were also awoken by the vibration, sound, and frequency, and the bagpipers would have drummers who would associate with them too.
I'm getting shivers, actual physical body shivers, as you're saying that, as I'm trying to, see that imagery in my mind. That's incredible.
That must be akin
Go
to the
listen to
Native
some bagpipe music
American
after May.
drumming and flute playing.
Yes.
Must be the same sort of thing. So what's like the Edinburgh Tattoo have lots of them playing the bagpipes and marching, but that's a different. Is it creating a different frequency because it's part of the system?
Yes, but it also has a different purpose. You have lots of the old traditions of the marching groups, which was, again, back to the original purpose, marching them across the land to raise the frequency of the land. They've just lost the original intent and purpose and are using the bagpipes in a different way.
Yeah, they're marching around an arena. Yeah.
Correct.
So
It's
for
usually in Edinburgh, isn't it? Oh yeah, it's the Edinburgh Tattoo. Oh yeah.
So for the pipes, Andrew, before they went to war, was that to kind of get them all real riled up and high energy? Before they used to go into battle, didn't the history tells us that the pipes used to be played at the start?
And all throughout it, the pipes were also a way to signal the troops what formations to do.
Oh.
Wow.
It was a full-on communication system. Hold on a second, I got to plug my phone.
So, are we going to run an ad for the tour?
Say that again, Maty.
So we're about halfway through the show, so maybe it's about time that we ran the section of the advert for the tour itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is our goal.
Yeah.
Take us away, Joel.
That was our goal.
To get on that cycle of not to do it right at the end of the show.
We did it last time.
Congratulations,
right at the end,
Maty.
I pressed it. I went,
Exactly.
fuck it, pressing it.
See you in a couple of minutes, guys.
There's Joel there.
Welcome, everyone, to the Scottish Highlands Galactic Historian What's Your Purpose tour. You're asking, what's my purpose? Your purpose is to go on this tour and discover the mystical, magical highlands and lowlands of Scotland. We'll be going from Edinburgh to Kirkwall, Inverness, all over the Scottish lands, as you can see on our incredible map. So I want to bring in Dale to talk about what is going to be included with this trip.
So what's included on this What's My Purpose tour, we'll get a chance to meet Andrew Bartzis, and we'll be able to ask him what our own purposes are, and we'll be able to ponder and try and figure this out in 10 days.
And each and every day, we will be driving and I will be talking about the histories of the places that we are passing and going to. And a part of these attractions are what we're including in this tour to make it the most memorable tour I've ever been on. Dale, what are the attractions and everything that's included?
A Scottish driver and also a guide. You'll have your own very luxurious Mercedes-Benz coach as well. It'll include all transport and ferries, 9 nights accommodation and 9 breakfasts and also dinner included as well. So for the attractions you'll get free entry to Dunrobin Castle and Gardens. You'll also be tasting the fine whiskey at the Highland Whiskey Distillery tasting, where you'll be able to see the spirits being made and created. And we'll be also getting entry to Scarabray, the Garrigan Black Houses Village, Callanish Standing Stones, which are so famous throughout the world. And we'll be also going entry to the Armdale Castle and Gardens, where we get the chance just to relax and walk around and just enjoy the scenery and the outside and the history. Also, we'll be going on a half-boat day trip to Stafford, and we'll be also going to entry to Iron Abbey.
This is your opportunity to take the pilgrimage with all of us to the Scottish Highlands, the 10-day bus tour around the Scottish Highlands. On the first day of the journey, of this 10-day journey,
And we are back, or we're not.
Hello there. Are you alright? You like?
Hello.
You're right, Paul.
Hello there, everyone.
You're right, Paul.
You're right.
Dale's got a pick question for you, Andrew.
There was actually a really funny video.
I
sent it to the
have
group.
a picked answer for you.
I sent it to the group of that Scottish guy who saw a killer whale in the loch, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" In his Scottish accent, like, "Go on, fuck off."
Get to fuck.
Sometimes you can barely understand it. So, Patty, I think you were asking a question, and Andrew's going to deal with that, talk about that on Friday, in the Friday show. Tomorrow's show,
Yes.
in fact. It's tomorrow, yes. All about the UFOs, etc., what's been happening will be tomorrow. But thanks anyway. And do you want to talk about Findhorn, Andrew?
Sure. What about it?
Andrew, will you talk about Findhorn,
You know
please?
you have to ask questions.
That is
You actually have to ask
the
questions.
question.
You know how I work, right?
Don't come with the salad, Laura. Got to get some quinoa for the salad as well.
Siva, would you like to formulate that into a question? What you particularly like to know about Findhorn? Because I just got the impression it was a bit over love and lighted, but I could be totally wrong.
Oh, it's totally over love and lighted. That's why I actually have to ask a question. That's how I work, remember?
Yeah. Someone's back from dancing the jig. Yeah, I suppose all the Scottish dancing and that is just like any other of the land
Traditional
people.
dance culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To create certain energies.
Mm-hmm.
But just like the rain dance.
So this isn't a question, it's more of just a statement, but excuse me. I remember when I was young, the first exposure we had to Scotland as a mystical experience was the Highlander movies. with was it Connor McLeod, and it was just such an amazing set of films that was. The soundtrack and everything with it. So was there any deeper meaning towards that film, or was it just really just made up?
Yes, there is a lot more deeper meaning. The first movie is the only movie that should have been made. All those other ones were absolute total fucking garbage.
Yeah, nothing.
The first one was very much revealing the path to immortality and how certain beings in certain clans could gain immortality. And immortality was a very common thing. It's just not talked about frequently, where they could live 400, 500, 600 years. Now, as for the cutting off of the head, that's the ceremonial stealing of power.
This is like ancestral cursing, but on steroids.
Yeah.
I love that film.
Yeah.
Are we in a cycle of repetition, i.e. recreating Atlantis, Santo's asking?
No.
This is the fifth world.
The guys are breaking up. I'm not certain if it's I'm not sure if it's my connection or it's just breaking up.
It might be. It's perfectly
Is it
fine
Joel?
for me.
I don't know. Yeah, Andrew is a bit choppy.
Let me turn off my video then.
Yeah. So
that
a
should clear
question,
it up a
Andrew,
little
would
bit.
be, so for the natural living beings then, not classing the two-legged kind of the animals in the highlands, what is it like for them, like today, like going in, in the dream time and where they're dreaming and stuff like that? Because I know we're heavily suppressed with all the kind of signals, the Wi-Fi and all of that stuff there. What's it like from their perspective, the highland animals and their kind of dreaming mind and so on?
That's such a light worker question. Okay. What are the animals like?
That's
Because
you run
I
out of
remember
pig questions.
I remember a while ago you talked about the lion communities going through that change in their lion prides, going through like deep changes in their societies and stuff. It just a general question if there's any little nice little nuggets there.
Sure, but
I guess
all the major changes between the animal world already happened several hundred years ago, when the land was tamed and the humans were killed off, and those that were the true animal husbandry people were taken away. Okay?
Yeah.
So they've gone through their own set of traumas long periods of time ago, and now they just live according to the rules of the society and the secret societies and the spiritual societies, because that's their purpose.
Incredible. Thank you for my light worker question answering. Appreciate it, Andrew.
So I have another light worker
man,
question as well. Then. So is there any uniqueness to the elemental communities in that particular area as well? Because it really is like, no, because like Dale says, it really is much more wild than the rest of the UK.
Sure, but there are wild places all over this world.
Yeah.
The elements are a static frequency. And are there unique elements and elementals to this world? Sure. But they're pretty static all over. It's what makes the planet solid and real. That's why elementals are elementals. They help keep the static of the reality going.
That makes sense.
Are they there in maybe larger volume? Quite possibly, because of the areas of places of power that still are somewhat functional places compared to places that have gone completely and totally wild.
Andrew, what is it that draws you to Scotland, other than the fact we asked you to go there? What is it?
The light, I think it was, Andrew, wasn't it? It was all.
You saw the light.
I saw the light.
He saw the light.
I saw the light.
What does it for you about Scotland?
What does it for me?
Yeah. What are you looking forward to on this tour?
The people.
Mm-hmm.
And the unique equation the people in the actual bus are.
Yes.
That for me is an incredible mystery waiting to be solved.
Yes.
Will it be like?
And
the
you guys
mystery
know I
never
like
be
solving
solved?
mysteries. Like I like solving mysteries.
And those
Okay.
who are coming on, get ready with your questions. No light worker questions like I got shot down then. Have a few months to think about those and ponder those questions.
And there's plenty of techniques to prepare for pilgrimages as well in some of the previous material. So that's something that everyone's going to
Sure.
need to think about.
The preparation for a pilgrimage is something you got to take sacred in your own heart. And by doing that, it'll make a difference on the journey you're actually on.
Yes, because all the energies that you input beforehand are carried with you on that, and it's like almost like sending out the precogs, isn't it? It's part of the preparation, yeah, which gives you greater experiences. Yes. Is there anything particular you're looking, other than the people, Andrew? At any places that we're going that you're particularly interested in? Oh, that's a weird question to ask a galactic historian, isn't it? Because you can just see it anyway. But
is there anything that turns you on with Scotland, Andrew?
It doesn't exactly work. I don't see everything. Everything.
No.
And I don't want to see everything. If I saw everything, there'd be no point going anywhere or doing anything. Okay?
Yeah.
It's the mystery of the travel and the journey itself. That's for me is the excitement. Is there something truly unique about Scotland? Sure, I've got my own shit to resolve there. Okay? But it's not all negative. Some is very positive. Do I need to tell everyone? No.
No.
Oh, okay, it's for me.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm going with you guys and those that all that end up on the tour, that's the uniqueness of spirit going, here you go, Andrew. Here's a unique alignment of people. Now what? What can you do to expand and explore and go to the next levels with it?
And I imagine there will be some very unique parties waiting for us in the unseen world as well. I'm sure that there'll be...
Sure, oh yeah, there's going to be plenty of unseen parties and keggers going on long before we get there.
And our light language singing as well. And Dale and I were talking today about I was going to bring my flute and drum, and Dale's going to bring a drum, I think, aren't you? You said
The Saint Germain band are gonna maybe.
yeah, the unassociated
The
Masters
Saint
are
Germain
touring
band will
Scotland.
tour again.
We're touring. There's going to be a
touring
date, guys. We're gonna all come together. The Saint Germain band. We're gonna bring you something special as well.
We may have some backing vocals as well from some of the people on the bus there. We might have a few more band members turn up.
Yes, and again create some unique frequencies. So Laura McGuffrey is asking, what will the collective group on the tour take to Scotland? I guess it depends on what the collective group ends up being, who the collective group ends up being.
Look at you answer your own question, Miss Galactic Historian.
Oh no, it wasn't my question. It was.
I know,
The Dragon
but you
Historian.
answered it.
Yeah, I didn't give you a chance there, Andrew. Sorry. I did say I guess beforehand. That gives me a bit of an out.
Well, it'll be a unique experience. And everyone will bring their own signature frequency, their own ancestors, their own resolution.
And
Yes.
that's it, guys. It's looking back at, like, if you've listened and watched Andrew's material for a long time, like I have, Laura has, Maty has, you just see all the countless episodes, the Galactic History, and when he goes into like the stream reads and the readings and stuff like that, it's very special. And Andrew does hold back a little bit because it's such a special thing what he does with the stream reads, and to be able to have him in the live, in the now, be able to poke him is going to be incredible for all of us coming together. And I'm so excited. I really am.
It's too ahead of its time, isn't it? As Andrew was saying, it's that kind of is. But when we're together like that, the uniqueness of what we'll be creating should bring some unique streams. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so many of us must have ancestors in Scotland.
And that's what I look forward to.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking what I look for. Doing that exact process. I enjoy that. I really do.
Mm.
Watching you all light up with potentials and possibilities.
Yeah.
It's another name for another group. We can be the Great Potentials.
Somebody has to tell him the whole story of the band music stuff and how that came up.
Well, it's in production, so is this a time where we're going to... Because we'll be doing a tour in Scotland.
Yeah, but what we're going to call ourselves?
We'll be literally on tour.
Yes,
Imagine going to some open
tour.
mics and doing that, Dale.
Yes.
Turn up to an open mic event and start singing in light language. People will be like, what the hell?
And we've got a special guest as well. And the Unascended Masters are coming on with us as well. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew, you've talked quite a bit about the connections between the UK and Egypt, and there's been some mummies found in a place called Cladhallen on South Uist. So would it be the same kind of societies that were in Ireland, or were they slightly different?
So the Irish are Egyptian, and the Egyptian are Irish.
Right. And so that technology, that the mummies and all those kinds of rituals and ceremonies were practiced all over the place.
No, there are tunnels that directly connect Ireland to Egypt and Egypt to Ireland. And when the tunnels were shut down during the takeover of the unique secret societies that were going to dominate the world for the next 10,000 years post-Atlantis fall, there was a group that took over after the main governments fell, which was a bunch of negatives who were re-owning the territory. You had to travel by boat to get to Ireland instead of using the tunnels. And then that's where the Great Sea Trade took over post-disaster situations, where Ireland, because the parts of Ireland that were not affected by the Great Floods were the high places that they went to do their burial grounds to.
And so that would have been, as you were talking about, the kind of Machu Picchu scenario. So it would have been a highlands, a place where you'd have had to go up and create those ceremonies and rituals.
Yes, at Lake Titicaca, yes.
Yes, sorry, beg your pardon.
Yeah. Well, Machu Picchu, Titicaca, they're the same thing. They're all right next to each other. Yeah.
And also, didn't they move on from Ireland to Scotland? So I was reading somewhere about the Jewish elite who also came from Egypt, moved on to Scotland, and it was them that formed the basis of the clan names.
That's fair to say, but there are also the Cree Indians in Canada actually speak a form of Jewish dialect. So the Cree Indians, they have many language similarities to the Jewish energies. And when you go and test their blood, there's a Jewish frequency in their blood too. And why would a unique Cree Indian have Jewish blood? It's because the tunnels connected them to those places and spaces. Before the bastardization of the Bible took over history, that place was a spiritual center for many hundreds of different religions to come together and share on that place and space that still had deep underground technology that was still operated by positive ancient technology, changing the environments of those places and spaces.
So it's a saltire, a Jewish cross as well. I suppose it could be any cross, couldn't it? Oh, it is. Okay. Right, have we got any questions in the chat we've missed?
The chat room has gone quiet.
Oh,
so how about the kilt, Andrew? How ancient is that tradition, or is it a more modern tradition?
Okay, you broke up there. Say the question again.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking about the kilt. Is that a modern tradition, or is that something that goes back much further? It's very unique to
kilt or
Scotland.
the Celts?
The kilt, yeah, the skirt.
The kilt, okay. It's not something that's necessarily unique to Scotland. I mean, clothing like that was very, very common It's the Scottish made it a traditional garb for spiritual growth. It no longer represents what it did in the ancient times at all. When you got your kilt, it also came with a sash that had your accomplishments in it. And kilts were not just for men. They were also for women, but a kilt was a recognition of the level of intelligence and education that you have mastered in natural living.
Much like the Native Americans with the feathers and so forth.
To an extent, yes, you could associate it to that, but it was really a spiritual, a ceremonial garb that you would don during pilgrimages that told others your spiritual victories that you've had.
That's cool. Because now it represents more just the clans that you were with or the clans that you're related to. So there's a much deeper meaning to it originally.
Much deeper meaning to it, yeah.
And just going back to music a minute, just asking the guys here because they live in the UK. So can you think of any bands that are specifically English? Like in Scotland, you have famous Runrig, Elbenac, Caledonia, you know, that carry on this folkish style or the more natural style of singing and so on. Can you think of any in England, or have we lost some of that as well, along with some of the natural way of living and the storytelling and so on?
So just British and not Irish?
Well, I was going to say English because I was breaking the UK kingdom down.
You too?
You two are Irish.
You too?
Yeah, but yeah. I would say Irish, you know, has still hung on to some of that ancientness, whereas we were comparing it earlier, weren't we, and saying Scotland and Wales have a lot of these old things the old oral teachings and so on that they've hung on to, but in England, it's less.
Okay, so there are many smaller folk bands that are from Welsh, Irish, Scottish foundings that have survived folk music, because folk music is spread all over the world wherever, you know, pilgrims have gone to pilgrimage to, or have just gone to start a new life somewhere else. They brought their folk traditions with them.
And in the 1960s, there were quite a few Beatles. English bands like Lindisfarne and so forth that were expressing that kind of ancientness. I'd like to mention one artist actually for anybody who's interested, and her name is Julie Fowlis. She did some of the soundtrack for the movie Brave, and she's one of the very few last remaining people that sing the traditional Scottish Gaelic, not only language but the original songs. So it's something for people to check out if they want to hear that original Scottish Gaelic.
Quite a lot of successful bands to come out of Scotland by the looks of it. I'm looking at it now.
Yes,
and Ireland.
That's about yeah. And some
the
people
Pogues,
didn't even
Pogue Mahone.
realise were Scottish. So Lana's asking, how did they travel through the tunnels, by foot or some form of other technology?
No, it's hyperdimensional. So one step in there is 10,000 steps. So what could be 1 day of traveling can be equivalent to a year's worth of surface travel. And also they're temporal also, so you're outside of time while you're inside those tunnels.
So would that mean that the experience would be unique to each person's multidimensional perspective of their DNA?
You know the old saying of the 40 years in the desert that the Jewish people did? They were in the tunnels for 40 years. But they were being held in those tunnels so that they wouldn't be raped and pillaged by the off-world beings who were trying to make sure that they wouldn't, that lineage made it out intact and whole.
Right. I've heard you. Did you not say that it was actually the Irish
that were that were Jewish?
The wandering tribe of Israel.
No, the wandering tribes of Israel came to Ireland through the tunnels, So you got to realize what Egypt was at the time. It was a collection of the most powerful spiritual communities that would come together to create a more powerful spiritual community centered in Egypt. So it was a multi-level theocracy that allowed many different faiths to perform faith, because faith in the end all comes to the same source, no matter what your language is. And there was a greater acceptance that faith can come in many different formats, and they wanted the many different formats of faith to practice in one area. And when the tribe of Israel left, it had already broken down. There was no more Atlantis. There was no more high Egyptian pharaohs, etc. And when they left, they were just a group of people who all practiced one common type of faith energy that left.
Right.
Even though there were thousands of different faith energies in Egypt itself. It wasn't one unique theocracy of teaching.
Which is totally wonderful to think about, because even with a multidimensional society, even with knowledge that isn't hidden, faith is still fundamental to the spiritual practice.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Faith
Great
to the
mystery
trust
never
in
been
faith.
solved.
That's right.
So Dragonfly Heart is asking, please can you talk about Clan MacLeod? If I said it right.
MacLeod.
MacLeod, that's the same from the
MacLeod.
movie, the Highlander movie.
Oh, and the tale of the fairy flag. Is there truth about the clan mingling with the fairies?
Yes. They were not the only clan that mingled with the fairies, though. And the fairy realm is a realm similar to our realm, except they don't use the standard time that we do. Elves can come from the fairy realm, dwarves, etc. Also, those realms would regularly open doors, and they would allow large groups of people on one land to immigrate into the fairy realms for several hundred years, and then it was time for them to go. They would go back to the other realm that they left with a higher form of education in them. So yes, they were absolutely one of those groups that was invited into the Fey realms to be taught about high society Fey realm energies and magics, so that they can come back to their realm with a higher sense of teachings and purpose.
And this would have assisted them in the process of the animal husbandry and the creation of new life to be taken to other worlds.
And to as well as prepare them for invasions, unique invasions that were coming, sicknesses that were coming, because the Fae had future sight. It was one of the big things that they have, is they're extremely powerful oracles with future sight.
So we're very much helping out.
Yes. Not all there's bad Fae too. Well, not all of them are good. Okay?
Yeah.
There's some really bad Fae too. There's a light court and a dark court.
So Tina Athene, sorry Tina, I'm not sure I'm saying your name, pronouncing your name right, that's why I've been calling you Tina. How will a touristy spot like Findhorn be navigated?
Very
So
carefully.
Andrew's going to say with a wide berth. Did you hear that, Andrew?
Yes, I did. I said very carefully. It's how we'll be
very
traveling
carefully.
tourists.
Sorry. Yeah.
Very
It's
carefully.
It's
There's
not.
It's fair to say right. It's fair to say many of these touristy places have what I call multi-dimensional minefields in them, and you don't want to step on a multi-dimensional mine. It's not that it's going to blow your foot off. It's going to give you an experience that's overwhelming.
Oh, so it's not like a Scottish Glastonbury then, a mix of energies.
No, that can happen. That happens in many touristy places.
Mm-hmm.
Because the higher echelons of the Freemasonry holds the name Scottish within it, doesn't it? 33rd degree Scottish Freemasons.
Yes.
So there must be a lot
Yes.
of that kind of magic that's taken place around those areas.
What about that? Do you guys know about that pyramid in Scotland? It's like belonged to the Queen or something. There's like a huge pyramid in the middle of nowhere.
There is one, yeah.
What's the name of that? Are you familiar with that, Andrew?
have a
I'll try
look.
and find the name of it.
No, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I saw it. It actually came up the other day, Dale, funnily enough, on Facebook, of one of these places people don't know about.
Which is very
Is it the
suspicious of in
Balmoral
itself.
Cairns? That's it. Yeah, it's like this pyramid just in the middle of the forest. Really cool.
The Pyramid of Cairns National Park.
Yes, that's the one.
So what was that for, Andrew? Is there any specific reason, or was that really just
fertility? Fertility. And
So
the practicing of sexual-based weather alterations and high crop yield, where the sexual energy of the practitioners were imbued into the weather patterns as well as the breeding habits and patterns of the animals.
That's awesome.
And this is not pleasure-based sexual, it's sexual magic energy that's part of the natural living organism energy.
That's amazing. Because this is a recent construction. It's not an ancient construction, so I imagine it would be over the top of some more ancient technology.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very small.
Oh yeah, Angus.
Well, I think we've reached a traditional end, unless we want to go another 10 more minutes. I mean, we've done a lot of questions and answers already.
Mm-hmm. You feel it when it flattens a little bit, because everybody's just dipping into their Scottish bag and pulling
Yes.
out everything that they can see.
Yeah.
So much there. So Dragonfly's just
Yes.
asking about the Cannonish standing stones, but actually that's one of the ones we're going to on the tour. So we probably wouldn't want to do so much on that now. But thank you everyone who's come into the chat to ask all your questions. Oh, there it is. That was the pyramid. Well done, Joel.
Yes.
That was me. I just quickly uploaded it.
Oh.
It's like,
So it's a very small construction compared to some of the others.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, let's get ready to wind it down. Dale, you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you?
So if you'd like any psychic surgery sessions, daletobin.com. I'm on twofeathersmedicine.com, but that just links you to daletobin.com. I'm also doing a spring equinox psychic surgery training next month online. So I've just put the dates up for that. So if you go onto daletobin.com, the psychic surgery training or sessions, and yeah, cool. What a great show! What a fun show.
Maty, give a way for people to get a hold of you.
Okay, so you can find me at twofeathersmedicine.com. There's information there about who Laura and I, who we are and what we're about. So just follow the links on twofeathersmedicine.com and also on Facebook.
Laura, for you?
Yeah, twofeathersmedicine.com and Facebook. And I was just going to say for future shows, so tomorrow night Andrew's got his fabulous comedy show, and next Friday Dale, Maty and I are hosting the Talking Stick show, and we've got David Ellis on, and he's going to talk about spiritual communities this year. So
yes.
And have we got anything for next Thursday yet, Andrew? Because I don't think we have particularly decided, so we'll post it up in Facebook.
We will discover it then.
Yes,
we will discover our show then. All right,
Okay.
You know who I am. You can go to my website, andrewbartzis.com, and sign up for the email list. You can also go there and find out all about the Scotland bus tours. Share it wide, share it far. Now, tomorrow we will be doing our Friday night comedy show with Monty Dean and Melissa Hocking Hughes, and we will be fielding your unique questions about the supposed balloony things that have been shot down or put up, as well as talking a whole bunch of other stuff. But understand, it is a comedy show. We will be taking the piss out of conspiracy world. We will be making sure that dumbass conspiracy people get exposed to being dumbass conspiracy people. And we will be talking hard truths at the same time. And then afterwards, we will be continuing our multi-hour game stream where we'll be playing World of Warcraft. And I am open to during my game streams, if you are in the chat room, I am open to any questions when it comes to, like, give me a update on the lizards or this or that. That is the only place you will get updates from me, is if you come and join our comedy stream or the gaming stream that goes on after it. It will be on our YouTube channel, which will then switch over to Rumble, so we can talk about anything we want, because YouTube has a unique set of words, 16,500 words you cannot talk about. With that said, we shall see you all tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for the comedy show.
See you later, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.